Welcome back. It's time now for business, and for that I'm joined by William Edwards from the Business Desk. Hi there, William.
Hi, Tom.
Now, I want to know about this $2 billion that JP Morgan has managed to lose in the space of 6 weeks. How on earth have they managed to do that?
Yeah, they've managed to misplace that $2 billion when trading on credit derivatives. Now, these are, of course, the very complex financial instruments. They involve packaging up a number of different financial instruments in themselves. So it is a very complex market, and it's perhaps through this that they have managed to make $2 billion in trade losses. Now, the chief executive has blamed it on errors, on sloppiness and bad judgment, and he's warned that things could get even worse. They're obviously still working out the full implications of this trading loss. Of course, JP Morgan itself came out relatively well from the financial crisis in comparison with some of its competitors, but it has been lobbying very firmly against new US legislation to keep the banks in line. It's particularly one known as the Volcker Rule, and ironically, a similar sort of trading to this, which caused the loss, is being tackled by this Volcker Rule. So a bit of an embarrassment there on that front as well.
I think sloppiness and bad judgment is putting it rather mildly when you're talking about $2 billion. And just to give us a size of some sense of the size of this loss, the markets in the US were hit pretty hard by it, weren't they?
Yeah, well, of course, JP Morgan shares themselves, they were down around 6% in Thursday's trading. And although it was a mixed session at the end, that JP Morgan move did hit other banks, caused them to fall, and did affect the whole of the S&P 500. Meanwhile, let's take a look at how things are going in Asia, and it's not great news there. China has announced that its inflation has slowed slightly in April to 3.4%, one of a number of indicators showing a potential slowdown in the economy. In the first quarter, it grew by its slowest pace since 2009, but still around 8%, so pretty healthy. But as you can see, the market's not loving that information coming out at the moment.
No, and the Nikkei far below the 10,000 mark, which we thought it might cross. Let's come back to Europe now, and Spain is struggling under the weight of various problems, not least the unemployment.
Yeah, of course, Greece is capturing a lot of the attention at the moment with their lack of a government and the question marks over whether they'll keep going with the bailout. But Spain is also causing headaches for Eurozone officials. Firstly, of course, they've nationalised Bankia. That bank is now in state ownership effectively, and they're also today going to launch a number of other banking reforms. They're going to force banks to hive off, to separate their toxic assets from the property investments, from the property bubble that really is at the heart of the Spanish problem. And they're going to, if they can't afford to do this and separate them off, write them down effectively, the government will step in and back them. Meanwhile, the government itself is worrying about sticking to its deficit targets, which it has, of course, agreed with the EU. It's possible that deficit target of 3% of GDP might not be met now until 2014. Pushing it back by a year, which could cause headaches, like I say, further headaches for the EU.
Lots of headaches and challenges there, but one of the country's biggest challenges is Spain's unemployment rate, which stands at 52% amongst young people. Well, Brussels is suggesting that Spain takes a page out of Germany's book and offers so-called mini jobs, which require just a few hours of work a week. Well, these would keep young people in the labour market. Our correspondents have been engaging reaction in Madrid.
26-year-old Nuria is finishing her first job as a support worker at a Madrid secondary school. She also works as a town hall administrator. These two short-term contracts are the best deal this young teacher has found in 4 years. When we ask her about creating mini-jobs in Spain, she's indignant.
The possibility of having mini-jobs here is really scary. I think we're already very, very flexible here. I work 41.5 hours a week and I earn 1,100 euros gross working 2 jobs, and it's all very unstable. I'll be able to do this for a few months until my contract at the town hall runs out, then I'll be left with just 300 euros a month.
With 52% of young people out of work, Brussels recommends Spain introduce German-style mini-jobs. That would benefit unskilled workers, but not qualified professionals, think some experts.
More than on and off flexibility and a poor salary, it would seem a better idea to introduce flexibility controlled by the worker through an entrepreneur code or a self-employed status that allows the worker to manage his or her own work.
Nuria counts herself lucky to not be among the 1 million unemployed graduates, but she hopes quality jobs are generated soon.
It isn't possible to make any plans for the future. I just have enough to get to the end of the month and pay my bills. Moving in with somebody or having a family, those kind of things are impossible for the moment.
At the symbolic square Puerta del Sol on Saturday, Muriel will join the Indignados. They'll mark their first anniversary with 4 days of protest.
All right, so those mini jobs are a German idea in Spain, and Germany's got some other ways up its sleeve for helping the Eurozone.
Well, there certainly seems to be a debate going on in Germany at the moment over whether to raise inflation. Now, Wolfgang Schäuble, he said, the finance minister, he said that inflation of up to 3% is acceptable, and there's been talk as well of allowing wages to rise further. Why is this important for the Eurozone? Well, if wages and prices were to go up in Germany, it would make it easier for other economies like Italy, Spain, Greece, all these economies in trouble, to compete better on wages themselves, to basically undercut Germany. Also, of course, inflation. If there was higher inflation over time, it would mean those Eurozone debts that we're always hearing about, they would gradually be worth less and less in today's prices. So that could help, but unfortunately, in an interview being published this morning, Bundesbank President Jens Weidmann, he is saying that there is no plan to tolerate higher inflation. So we see maybe a bit of a debate going on there in the German financial community.
All right, William. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm already starting to think about my summer holiday. And like a lot of other Europeans, I'll be keeping an eye on my mobile phone bill when I'm travelling abroad. But now the European Parliament has voted to limit roaming charges within the EU. So that will mean consumers will pay a lot less for calls, texts and data, and it could knock hundreds of euros off annual phone bills.
During your summer holiday this year, you may be more tempted to keep in touch with home by phone than by postcard. Now that European lawmakers have set a cap on mobile roaming charges within the EU, you won't have to be as worried about being stung by an unexpected bill.
For a family, it will make a difference when they're going on summer holiday of €200 this year already. And for businesses, for the business people, it makes a difference for talking about €1,000 on an annual base.
The new limits cut average roaming charges by at least a third. Making a call within the EU will cost a maximum of 29 cents a minute and receiving a call no more than 8 cents a minute, while sending a text message will cost 9 cents at most. The costs will fall further in 2014 and smartphone users will benefit as well. From this year, the price of downloading data while travelling in the EU will be limited to 70 cents per megabyte. By 2014, it will go down to 20 cents. That's compared to the €5 per megabyte charged by some providers now. 1 megabyte is enough to download about 100 text-only emails or spend a few minutes surfing the web. Mobile service providers lobbied against the new law, worried it would hit revenues. But analysts say consumers will be encouraged to use data abroad rather than switching off altogether. And the designer of the legislation says cell phone companies have been overcharging for too long.
It is like a spoiled child that is used to a certain treatment and then when time is over, then is saying, but I prefer the past. Past is over, future is there, we need to be competitive.
The caps come into effect on the 1st of July, just in time for the summer holidays.
All right, that was the business news. Thank you very much indeed, William Edwards. And thanks to you for watching. Got more news coming up with Lorna Shattuck in just a moment.